Scott again, Paradise Meadows, Hawaii's Local Buzz. I'm here at Paradise Meadows, out in the bee yard, one of the apiaries, which is what a bee yard is called. And I thought it would be interesting for people to know, a lot of them are wondering, should I be afraid of bees? And the first caveat is, if you've ever been stung by a bee and your throat closed up, or you had a really severe reaction, then you should be very aware and wary of bees because you have an allergy that is affected by them. If you've been stung before and it's not that serious, then you're probably not allergic, and you shouldn't fear the bees, because the bees, honeybees, they don't want to sting you ever, because they can only sting once. They have a stinger that, as part of their defense mechanism, I'm going to walk around this bees a little bit, but I want to show you something in a second. But anyway, their stinger pulls out, and if they sting you, they will die. So they really don't want to do that. So in a life cycle of a bee, after they're born, the first job they have is nurse bees, and they'll actually stay in the hive and take care of the other brood until there's a demand for them to be out in the field and out looking for nectar and pollen and stuff to supply the hive and support the hive. And so then they'll get out and go hunting for flowers and that kind of stuff. And then the last part of their life cycle is when they get old and they've survived that scary world with raindrops and wasp and ants and all wind and all that stuff. Then they're senior bees, let's call them, and they're actually the most dangerous if you get stung by them, because they've concentrated their venom in their little venom sacs. So it could give you the worst sting if you do get stung. And those bees' job is, they're called guard bees, and they stay at the door and they watch for bears and black dogs and things that would injure the hive and people. And so if they feel endangered, then the bees that go out to sting are the old bees, and they'll come over and they'll find a vulnerable spot and stick that stinger in you and make it really hurt. So other than that, you should know that bees don't want to sting you. They just want to be left alone. So all you need to do is take a little care. You notice I'm standing here. You can't see it, but I'm not wearing a bee suit. I have regular street clothes on, and I'm not concerned at all. Only I've been doing this 15 years. But I know that their goal is not to sting me or hurt me in any way. If I don't mess with them, they don't mess with me. And so I just need to be cautious, be aware of them. And then I'm showing it this way because you can see, hopefully in this video, you can see bees coming and going. And it's like a flight path. So they've gone out and found a nice nectar source, and they came back to the hive and said, oh, there's a really cool nectar source over here. And then the bees will go back and forth from that tree, bank of flowers, whatever it is, to gather that honey. So when you're hanging out at a beehive, if you ever see one, then watch for that bee highway, that place where all the bees are going, and it's generally one direction. And then just stay out of that. You walk around the other side of the hive, and they'll leave you alone. So the only real time you should be concerned with bees that have a hive is if you mess with them, or if you trap a bee. If you get it in your shirt, if you get it in your hair, if you get it under your arm, they think you're trying to hurt them. And so in their defense, they'll fight back, they'll sting. Another quick aside is I've had many people tell me that I heard bees and they sounded really angry. So the reality is, bees don't get angry. Bees' mission in life is to create more bees, to pollinate, to survive. And so when you hear a change in that buzzing noise, which is actually the flapping of their wings, is for other reasons. It's not anger. It's to warn you off, is sometimes. It's cooling the hive. So they flap their wings to move air around. so it'll cool it. Then on the other end of that spectrum, they'll move their wings to heat the hive if it's cold. So when you hear bees buzzing and then they buzz louder, it's probably not that they're mad, because they really don't get mad ever. They don't have that characteristic. So they're doing other things, and it just seems to us like, oh, that sounds really scary. And that's because of our relationship that we've had over the years where we've been stung by a bee or had a bad experience. So anyway, thought those bits of information on being stung or not being stung. Oh, one more, and then I'll stop. Whenever you see a swarm, if you see a bunch of bees, and it's usually formed in a ball or a small cloud, those bees have swarmed. That means they're moving from their old home and looking for a new home. And so when you see that, that's the time they're least likely to sting, because in that case, they don't have any babies to protect. So the only thing they're protecting is the queen, which is usually in the middle of that ball or swarm that you're seeing. And so I've had them walk all over me, gone in the middle of a swarm, and they don't bother you at all. They climb all over your head and your ears, everywhere, and they're totally docile. I can hold them on my hand. But once they've established a hive, then all bets are off. So now they're defending babies, and we all know if somebody threatens your kids, that's when you get a little intense. And so you should be cautious at that time. But if you see a swarm on the street or in a park or something like that, don't worry. Don't be concerned, because unless you're going to go over there and mash the bees, they're not gonna seek you out and sting you. So anyway, a tidbit from Scott here at Paradise Meadows, home of Hawaii's local buzz. And come back and see me. I hope you enjoy the visit. Aloha.